Boring makes money. It's one of the sayings of former NFL linebacker Brandon Copeland. And in a minute, we'll dive into what he has going on in the business world and how he was able to turn NFL startup capital into a promising real estate portfolio right now at the Nasdaq. Hello, everyone. This is Jabari Young here at the Nasdaq, and I am joined by former NFL linebacker, 10-year pro, Brandon Copeland. Played for the Lions and right here in New York for the Jets. Just two of your stops along the way, man. Baltimore guy, man. Welcome to the Nasdaq, man.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
No problem. This isn't your first time here, is it?
This is actually my first time in the Nasdaq. It's nice in here.
All these years you played in the New York Jets, and anybody never bring you to the Nasdaq?
Nobody. We weren't winning. That's what it is.
You had to stay out of the way because the media would have got you.
We didn't have Aaron Rodgers or nobody.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, while we're here at the stock market, man, you got to give me a stock. Like, what is a razor blade stock? I know that's one of the things you look at, right? The Warren Buffett.
Yeah. Okay. What am I into right now? I'm actually working on my children's portfolio, so I'm actually trying to get out of stocks and get more into ETFs, AOA, JEPI, things of that nature. But I always love Apple. I always love Microsoft. We're Google right now. Alphabet's getting under pressure. My wife works at Google, but right now the thing that made the thing that made Google so special, the search engine, it's got more competition than it's ever had. Yeah, it's got antitrust. You got ChatGPT. You got young people who are going to grow up with asking ChatGPT their questions as opposed to going on Google and asking it a question. And so, how does that change things over time? So it's an interesting time in the market for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't go wrong with Microsoft, though, man. I tell you, that stock has been around. It's going to be around. And you know, the thing about Microsoft is that globally they're well respected. You know, there's a lot of geopolitical tension, but the one company that's always in the mix is Microsoft, right there, right? Software, can't go wrong. Listen, man, we are in Black Business Month. Happy Black Business Month to you. But when you think about that, you know, the theme of August, again, Black Business Month, give me that individual, that black leader, that black, you know, somebody, it doesn't have to be popular, right? Somebody who's really made a difference in the business world.
Nah, well, first and foremost, I'll shout out to my mom over there, you know, black leader of our household, Copeland family household, and only reason why I'm here today. But when I look out at the landscape now, the people I'm inspired by are the Tyler Perrys of the world, the Kevin Harts, the Jay-Z's, and you know, for me, I decided not to go back and try to get a master's degree or anything like that, so I watch a lot of interviews and I'm just trying to pick apart the different things that they say of how they try to own as much as they possibly can to take themselves to the next level. Kevin Hart always says, I'm infatuated with the door behind the door. Like, you get into a room, I came into the NFL, I was able to get into a bunch of different rooms, and everybody was happy in this party, and then I saw, oh, what's that door over there? What y'all doing over there? What y'all talking about, right? And so for me, I'm looking at the way the LeBron Jameses of the world, they're structuring their business, they're structuring their team, and I think that the phase that I'm in right now is delegation and learning how to delegate, learning how to pull my hand off of the steering wheel. Because in order for me to grow to my next level, I gotta get more and more comfortable at trusting the team to execute better than I ever could in the silos of the business.
Man, listen, you sound like a CEO, man. Effective delegator, man.
Sounding like it, you know what I'm saying?
I love that. And I love that you said Kevin, man, a fellow Philly guy. You know, definitely respect what he's doing in the media space. And Tyler, you can't knock what he's doing as well. Issa Rae, another sister. So, you know, definitely three dope names, and then obviously Hove. You can't knock what he's doing, man. But listen, you're a former player, man. Again, you announced your retirement last August, right? A year into this, man. Congratulations again, getting through that. But NFL season's right here, right on the cusp, man. Like, we are right here. What's the mindset of a player going into it? Like, we're right in that preseason mix, man, and you get the regular season. What's the mindset?
Yeah, it's tough. So for those who don't know, I played 10 years in the NFL, undrafted free agent. So came into the league 2013 to my hometown team, the Baltimore Ravens, and frankly, when you're in this time of the year for that undrafted free agent, you're trying to figure out if you're gonna have a job or not. Are you going to make the team or not? Because the rosters start with 90 people. It's cut down to 53 of them. And that's the difference in you being in the NFL or not being in the NFL. And so this time of the year is the pressure is at an all-time high. You got guys who are going down for injury. You got guys who may be making the same mistakes 2 times, 3 times, and that weighs on you heavily. But when you go and show up in the preseason games, that is the true key to give yourself job security. And what I mean when I say that is when you go into the preseason games, you are really putting on a tryout for every other team in the NFL. And so the difference between you being fired, you making practice squad, or you being an active roster player, you actually playing on Sundays, those are three totally different checks. But that is also heavily determined off of what you do in those preseason games, because teams will understand whether they can cut you and fire you and put you on practice squad the next day, depending on how you ball out in the game on the day before, so to speak. Because if they know if they cut you and you balled out, then another team is going to pick you up and add you to their active roster, then now they can't cut you. So right now, from the business side of football, you are chasing your dream to play in the NFL, but it's also you're chasing leverage, right? You're chasing the ability to smile on cut day if the Grim Reaper comes around and says, hey, coach wants to talk to you, bring your iPad and everything like that.
Does your heart jump when you hear that moment, man?
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
I mean, I've seen enough hard knocks like that. I know what's coming, man. When they say bring your iPad,
listen,
it ain't because they want to go over a play. They ready to take this joke from
you almost want to run the other way. I mean, there's so many jokes about the Grim Reaper and things of that nature. And I've been, my first year I was fired 5 times, and every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern is when you get paid for the week. Like, that's how much I know. I've been fired on Wednesday morning because the Baltimore Ravens wanted to pay me and bring me back the next week. They didn't end up bringing me back. I ended up having to go to Tennessee, but they were trying to do a solid for me, right? I've also been fired at 3:56 p.m. Eastern. Tennessee Titans called me. I got a random Tennessee number calling me. What's this? After I'd done community service for them the day before in the Jersey, not the day before, that morning in the Jersey, right? And so it is a up and down roller coaster ride mentally, for sure. Just imagine. I mean, people deal with layoffs and things like that all the time, but it is definitely not for the faint of heart. And you got to continue to tell yourself, okay, I'm good enough. Or you got to trick yourself and lie to yourself like, hey, my next shot is going to be the one that lands. And fortunately, I stuck around long enough for me to get that shot that cemented me in there.
And I love your perspective, man, because when you think about your career, you have so many different entry points. Again, practice squad to you actually going to be on the roster because you know what you did the year before, so you feel safe, and then having to go through that adversity, and get it out there. You know, especially in 2019 when the incident happened. But definitely going to get into all of that. But before I get out of football, let me ask you something. 2 last things. First, who's your favorite NFL coach? Like the guy who always was the man for you, and it only had to be the head coach. Who's the favorite NFL coach?
Yeah, oh man, that's a tough one. Favorite NFL coach, I'll say Frank Bush, man. Frank Bush. He's a linebackers coach. He was a linebackers coach with the Jets. He was also my linebackers coach with the Atlanta Falcons. And Frank, he just always brings energy to the room. He's a former player himself, so he's fun. He's gonna make you work, and he's gonna get it out of you. But he's phenomenal. And then the other person, just speaking of, you know, Black Business Month, Jim Caldwell. Favorite head coach?
Yeah, man.
Coach Jim Caldwell. I've had some great head coaches, but Jim Caldwell, he was my head coach with the Detroit Lions as well, too. And when I signed to Detroit, you know, I don't want to put his business out there, but when I signed to Detroit, we sat down for 45 minutes. And this is me coming off of what we call in the NFL the street. I hadn't played in 14 weeks. I hadn't played, and I'm sitting down and I'm trying to, you know, changed my life. And this is 2015, and we sit in his office 45 minutes, and 3 minutes we talk about football, and another 42 minutes we start talking about life and financial freedom and real estate investing and all those things. And so every single week, Coach, you knew how much he cared about us as human beings, and he was really trying to cultivate us to become great men. Every single week he'd have a leadership lesson. He'd also have different educational lessons in terms of taking care of your money and doing other things like that, but he was a guy who truly wanted to see you win both on and off the field. And that's not always the case in the NFL, because some folks, the minority, I'll say, some coaches would rather you be mentally a slave to having to run through a brick wall for them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Jim Caldwell comes from that Tony Dungy tree, man. You know, definitely respect it. But listen, let's go inside your empire. And again, last thing, You got the Cowboys winning the Super Bowl this year, right? Come on, say it. Say it, man.
Listen,
say it.
Man, they need to get past the first round of the playoffs.
I know,
man.
but they're gonna win a Super Bowl. Though. You
gotta Madden. You talking Madden? I got.
No, I'm not talking real life. Right? Come on, say it. They're gonna kill me in Philly, man. I know I'm a Philly guy.
I know you gotta
Philly,
watch
I'm a Cowboys, but I am what I am.
Do you show up to the Philly games with the Cowboys jersey?
Of course not, man. You crazy? Now I do that in Dallas. I'll go to the Dallas one though, because he's wrong.
Yeah, Philly is different.
But listen, man, let's go into your portfolio, right? Because you have your football side, but you're also the CEO of BTC Investments. It's a real estate investment platform, teaches financial freedom as well. And I find this interesting because as I went inside a portfolio, I'm like, okay, you own the properties, and I'm looking who are your tenants. You got Wawa, Circle K, McDonald's, a Super Target. Like these are people who pay you every single month because they're leasing that space. You turn $7 million that you made in your NFL career into a 200+ million real estate portfolio. How'd you do that?
God is good.
God is good.
God is good.
All the time.
God is definitely good. I think, so my rookie year, 2013, I was day trading options, which for those who aren't familiar with it, that means I'm literally every single day, I am trying to pick a stock or some call options that I can go make some money off of. And what I realized at the end of the year, I made a big trade. And I had done phenomenal the whole year. I made a big trade, and the entire market went down 2 days after I did this trade because of geopolitical tensions going on over in Greece. And I was like, dang, like I had no control over this. This doesn't make any sense. I'm comfortable taking a loss. I don't want to lose. I'm comfortable taking a loss, but I need to own more of I have to control more of the outcome, right? And so I started looking at different professions. Real estate was the next one for me, where it's like, hey, if I lose on a property, well, I pick the carpets, I pick the colors. I can't be mad at anybody but me.
More control.
Right? And so that sent me on a journey to start learning about real estate, and I took about 3 years. I would go properties. I went around Penn, I went around Temple, looking at student housing projects, and I'm just learning. Started co-investing with some mentors of mine. And the best thing about that was started doing single family flips, but these mentors were starting to graduate themselves. So one guy, Rob Sims in Detroit with the Lions, he took me around on some single family flip projects he was doing with some players. And then he also took me to a multi-family building that he was building with like 40 different units, and we had to put the hard hats on and things like that. Then he took me to a property where he's knocking off the top of the house and adding on a whole nother level. And so being curious and being like, exposed to, there's more ways to make money in real estate than just the auction property that I renovate and flip in a few months. Okay, well, let me learn about that. I'm gonna focus up over here. I'm gonna start to learn the process. I'm gonna start to build my team, take my lumps, take my losses, and then I'm gonna graduate there one day. And so for me, started doing single family flips, and eventually started graduating to multifamily. Started buying, investing in properties. We got an 88 unit in California being built right now. We got a 40 unit in Newark, New Jersey. We got a 66, a 16, and a 12 being built. And then that was great. And I'm like, I made it. And then I started getting introduced to land development and buying up land, and then allowing for different tenants to come in and purchase the land and partner with you either to build the project or to just, hey, get out of the way. We're gonna build this ourselves. We're Starbucks. We don't want we don't want you touching it. We're gonna build it ourselves, and we'll just pay you every single year for the land, right? And so seeing that and getting ingrained in that, that's when me and a bunch of NFL players started investing together in different places around the country. And that's how we've started to build something that, frankly, I never even would have thought was possible 5 to 7 years ago, because I didn't necessarily know that it existed, right? The pandemic also just gave a bunch of time. Obviously, there was a lot of negative things that happened to the world, but it gave a bunch of time for me to just sit down and just to focus on intentionally mapping out what I want life to look like beyond football. And when I looked at what I was doing in real estate, I'm like, the flips are dope, fun, but this is even better. Having Marriott come in and buy your land to build their thing is pretty cool.
And that's why I tell people, and I want to ask you if you can give someone advice about how to get into even commercial real estate, because you have these, again, big corporations that'll pay you, and these are not 5 to 2 year leases. These are 15 to 20 year leases. So you got 15 to 20 years of revenue built in, right? If you play, and that's a win. Let's say you have that individual does not have any commercial real estate experience, but they have some money that they want to go into that space. What would you advise them to do?
I would tell you first, in everything, start showing up to local industry meetings. There's big conventions that they do in Vegas and things of that nature. We have a fund manager and a partner in the business who does an amazing job of literally helping guys get their real estate licenses, helping guys show up to these meetings, and takes us into all the meetings with the different owners of hotels and properties and our partners and things like that. So we get to get on the fast track, so to speak, with that stuff. But I would tell you, anybody, go dive into the places where these deals are happening, right? By doing that, then you're going to start shaking hands with people. You're going to look and see the different opportunities that are out there for you to co-invest and for you to actually get your name into some of the ownership spots that you may be looking for. So even whether it is, hey, I want to put my capital in this now, or I'm going to, and I think that's one thing I've always done a decent job at, I'm going to go learn about this now so that day that I can put my capital into this, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Take me back right fast, man. You grew up in Baltimore, right, in Maryland area. What was that like? Because when people think about Baltimore, we obviously think about The Wire, right? That's the one, we all look at that. But what was that like for you?
Yeah, so for me, my mother, it was funny. So my grandfather played in the NFL for 11 years. My mother, she worked extremely hard to make sure that her children had the opportunity to do everything that they wanted to do, but she always drew a line of if you ain't doing what you need to do in the classroom, you will not touch a football, touch a basketball, you won't go outside. And so for us, it was sports and it was school, literally. And my granddad used to always tell her, if you keep them busy with sports, they won't have time to get in trouble.
Absolutely.
Right? So there was a huge emphasis on education in my household, and we ended up getting a chance to go to a school called Gilman. It's a private school in Baltimore, and that just started taking us to a different level of exposure there. Having a head coach who ran a hedge fund, my high school football coach ran a hedge fund, and I had no idea what the hell that was at the time, but I asked him for an internship because he could afford to pay for pizzas for all of us on Wednesdays.
Smart move.
And I was just like, I was like, you're not selling drugs, you ain't in the NFL or NBA because you ain't in the best shape. What do you do,
Yeah.
And fortunately, he allowed me to go get my workout in and then go to his office, and that was the first time I saw Bloomberg terminals and all of that type of stuff. But when I grew up, unfortunately, Baltimore was at that time, one of the highest murder rates in the country. It was a place where you don't go out unless you have at least 2 other people with you, because if not, you are setting yourself up to get jumped. And I think that the city is doing a better job of showing a different lens of itself nowadays, because there are some amazing parts of the city. But I remember signing with the Ravens. There were parts of the city I had never seen before. I was like, hold on, this actually is this is beautiful, So it's like everything else. Philly gets a bad rep at times. Detroit gets a bad rep at times, but ultimately, those cities make you the people who you are.
Yeah. NFL, did you always want that? Because your granddad, right, Roy Hilton, he played, 10 plus years and 11 years in NFL, defensive end for the Baltimore Colts, right? So was that always a path that you wanted to go?
Yeah, I mean, frankly, I would have much rather be playing with the Team USA trying to get a gold medal in basketball. Basketball was the first love, but football was just something that just always was natural to me. My body type just made sense for football, but then it just came so much easier to me. I played with a couple of guys who actually went to the NBA and things like that, and for them, the way basketball just came, like they just naturally knew what to do. That's kind of how football came for me. And so at a certain age, it was definitely like I was afraid to admit to people that I wanted to go to the NFL. J. Cole was my favorite rapper. One of the things he used to always say in Too Deep for the Intro is, if they don't know your dreams, then they can't shoot them down. And so when you're around, you know, I've had some amazing friends, amazing people around me, but you know, when we're kids, will be kids. And when you say your dreams out loud, sometimes some people will make fun of those dreams or belittle those dreams, and then you start to get a little insecure about those dreams. So I always told people football was a means to an end, means to an end, means to an end, means to an end. But my goal was, I'm gonna just keep working some more. And my goal was to make it to the NFL. So,
absolutely. And then you know, you go to UPenn and you get through the league that way, again, undrafted. But you know, you look at your entire career, right? If you had to describe it in one word, what would that word be?
Roller coaster.
Roller coaster. Why roller coaster? Because of
up and down. Up and down. I've had the game. I've been almost at every single place in the game, and I don't hide from it. I've been cut a bunch of times. Hey, you're not good enough. I could do a football camp every year, and I have quotes up of negative things that coaches and people have said to me, so kids know, like, I don't care about your excuse that somebody doesn't believe in you. This is what people said about me, right? I've been a starter in the NFL. I've lost the season in the NFL because of an injury. I've had this game taken away from me for a PD scandal.
Well,
right?
I was going to ask you that, man. How did you overcome that adversity? Because you know, you were balling that year, and then you know, you get hit with this, right? And that it didn't derail you because you still were able to. Some guys don't ever come back from that. But how did you overcome that adversity?
So that
and that was in 2019 when it was.
That was 2019 after my best season, and so one, to the company that the supplement that we took, we're legally suing them. They ended up having a banned substance within their bottle that it got contaminated with, and it wasn't on the label or anything like that. It had multiple nutritionists checking it, but it was a contaminated supplement. We tried to appeal it from the league and all that type of stuff, but they say, hey, it's not our fault that they did it, so it is what it is. But you take it on the chin, and it was one of those things where it's like, you know, I remember talking with the team about it and just telling them, like, first, y'all know me. Like, there's no reason. If you were going to cheat, it would make sense to cheat years ago when people told you weren't good enough, right? That's not me. But second of all, if you guys believe in me, promise you I'll be back, and I'm going to come back with a vengeance and help this team. And so it was a tough time, but it was also one of those times where you got a chance to see how blessed I am in terms of the amount of people that stayed around me and wanted to be around me. A lot of people talk about how many people leave them and shun them and all of that type of stuff. For me, all my friends and family stood 10 toes down by my side because they just know that that's not me. You know what I'm saying? So I do remember the one interview I did on it in the locker room with the Jets. You know, I called them out. The media has been amazing to me over years, and I've said this, the one time I've gotten pulled to the podium is for this. And I've done some pretty incredible things both on and off the field, right? And that's no ego. We've fed kids. We've taken thousands of kids shopping. We've educated thousands of kids. The one time you guys have called me up to the podium is after this, which I'm happy to answer for it. But anybody who knows me, knows my heart, knows that, one, I would never do that, but two, let's keep going. It is what it is. So just to get back to the point, having the career taken away in multiple ways, right, or that roller coaster ride, being a starter. I got named a starter in Detroit and then went out and tore my pec the next day. And a pec tear is a 6-month rehab process. It was the first preseason game against the Indianapolis Colts. So for me to finally make it in the NFL 2017 to the starting position, and the next day, yeah, your season's over. Oh, right? Still find a way to come back. I guess the other word would be resilience.
Resilience, yeah. Resilient roller coaster.
Yeah, resilient roller coaster ride, that's for sure.
You know, it's funny, man, when I hear you talk, it sounds just like, I always like to do this thing where I'll call around the previous stops that guys have been. I've covered the Spurs. I know a lot of colleagues in the business. See, man, I got Brandon Copeland coming to the Nasdaq. What would you ask him? And so yesterday I called some friends of mine at the NFL Players Union.
Nice.
And they said, man, you know, the one thing we respect about him is that he got involved with the union early, right? And so he has a good lens on the talk of money. And one of the guys said, man, Brandon said one day, you know, he had a guy come with a bag of cash and said, invest in this for me. He's like, man, it don't work that way. This ain't New Jack City, right? It don't work that way. But, you know, I found it to be very interesting. If you think about, because of your involvement with the union and you've had a lot of, again, feedback, what is the general talk about money when it comes to, you know, players in the NFL? Because you hear the horror stories, Adrian Peterson going broke, you know, Antoine Walker, the Boston Celtics in a whole different sport. You hear the horror stories, but what's the general topic and what's the general conversation about money in 2024?
Yeah, I think, well, now because of the light that's been shined on players who have those horror stories, nobody wants to be the next one, right? And so guys are having more conversations about money in and outside the locker room. You see more guys meeting to talk about real estate or to have a conference on their wealth and meet with financial advisors and just things like, what should I be asking my financial advisors? And more guys are actually auditing their financial advisors now than ever.
Yeah. There's guys like Tim Duncan and Kevin Garnett, they got killed because they were having people answer their money. So guys are more auditing guys now.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, is everyone doing it? No, probably not, right? But are more folks doing it now than they were 10 years ago? I would definitely assume so, but also agree with that because I was in the locker room 10 years ago and we weren't having these types of conversations about venture capital and what company you're investing in and why, and okay, let me join this and meet and talk about that. And so I think that guys are starting to, it's everyone's dream, or I would say most guys' dream, because there are some guys in the NFL who don't necessarily dream of being in the NFL. It's the feeling of a lifetime to walk out of a tunnel with smoke and fans screaming and everybody cheering your name, right? And so a lot of guys dream of being in the NFL. And now guys are not just leaving it there, but they're also starting to dream about, okay, well, what can the NFL do for me in my life beyond this as well, too? And they understand that now that is going to take them using their capital in ways to help propel their lives forward, as opposed to the dream just being, I'm an NFL player. Boom. Yeah. Now guys want to talk about this team I own, or I'm having this conversation and this, and I think that that's just going to continue to push the narrative for athletes. And one of my biggest initiatives right now is athletes.org. It's the Players Association for college athletes. And really it's how do we start working with young people early? One, when it comes to money, one, get the deal that you actually deserve, right? Like sign the deal for the number that you have earned and that makes sense. So like if I'm worth $1, get paid $1, not 42 cents, right? Then once you get that dollar, let me go ahead and put that dollar to work for me in ways that can make this thing something that is my employee for the rest of my life, as opposed to me just taking that dollar and just sitting on it, so to speak. And I think that when you look at college athletes right now, they're going to be getting over $1 billion next year alone from revenue sharing for their schools, and there's no players association that has stepped up to make sure that they're getting the right amount of money that they should be getting. And then two, making sure that they have the resources and tools and everything so that they aren't being taken advantage of. Because now what happens with college athletes is every single thing that plagued me and my teammates in the locker room, now it's just going downstream because there's less infrastructure and protection around college athletes. So that person who was pretending to be a financial advisor, pretending to be an agent that was trying with the Atlanta Falcons player, well, now they can go downstream to the UGA football player because there's less infrastructure to protect that player. And so what we've been doing with athletes.org is trying to educate our athletes and give them a voice at these negotiating tables. We've been trying to give them that on-demand support so that they can run free background checks, get their contracts reviewed for free so they can get mental wellness resources and support, get financial education. And then we've been also representing them to actually make sure they get the amount of money that they deserve from their schools in the first place. And if we're able to do that, then we will hopefully look up and see a lot more people that are, frankly, look like you and I, and a lot more people who will be leaving their schools more financially well off or financially secure because somebody went out there and advocated for them.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, I want to get your thoughts because we got a few more minutes before we let you wrap up here. But the NIL front, stand on that right fast, scare me a little bit, right? We all look at the positives, and there's a whole bunch of positives there. Young men making money for their talents now, but scare me a little bit.
Yeah.
You see something that may happen if X, Y, Z doesn't happen.
Yeah, well, I think one, again, you've just given a bunch of young people money and you haven't done anything to protect them. And so I'm never going to say, let's stop paying college athletes, but you should be providing them with the tools they need to not be taken advantage of. Because there's kids in high school now who I know who are getting $300,000 and $400,000 offers to go play in college. Now, if I know and I've never met the kid, what does that do for the person that has bad intentions for them and can now try to approach them on a daily basis and try to recruit them and take their money? We also have, last year we worked with Slam Basketball, Slam Media. They did Slam Summer Classic at Rucker Park. Top 28 high school men's and women's basketball players playing. The Juju Watkins of the world have played in it. The Derek Whiteheads, who's on the Brooklyn Nets, have played in it. And what some of those parents were saying is their children have been offered contracts with splits of 30 and 40%. These are the next NBA and WNBA superstars. They shouldn't be paying anybody 40% of anything. That's just robbery. But again, we've created this, they've opened up the floodgates, but they haven't given any support to actually make sure that now you don't derail a young person's life because you haven't given them any tools to vet the people around them. So we've been building that with athletes.org. The other thing is there's a lot of, right now there was a $2.576 billion settlement that the NCAA agreed to pay college athletes from 2016 to about 2023, July 1st, 2023. And that's back damages. And then now, in the future, they're going to be paying, every school will have the ability to pay athletes starting in 2025, $23 million, a little under $23 million for the next 10 years. So $23 million per year for the next 10 years. So Georgia will be able to pay its athletes $23 million, Notre Dame, Ohio State, et cetera. All of those athletes should be a part of a players association that now comes to the table with UGA and says, okay, well, this is how we want the money. Because in the pro leagues, that's exactly how it works. Yeah. In the pro leagues, you got the NBPA, which is the NBA's Players Association, who's gone out and negotiated for its athletes to get a little over 50% of all revenue. So anytime the NBA does a deal, LeBron, Steph, Anthony Edwards, everybody can be excited because we're automatically getting a bump in our salary cap and all these other areas. In the NFLPA, they've negotiated to get 48.5% of the revenue. In college, there is no Players Association that has been able to go to the table and negotiate with the schools yet. We built the Players Association, but right now, the number that the college athletes are getting is about 22% of the school's revenue, which, again, why are they getting 22 as opposed to 50? And there's a number of reasons why, right? There may be, okay, well, the school is giving you a scholarship, it's giving you meals, it's giving you these things. However, at this day and age, college athletes are smart enough, are strong enough to have their own representation and be partners in the business as opposed to bystanders just taking whatever scraps the NCAA and its schools see fit.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, man, could talk about that all day because a lot of stuff, still right and wrong about NIL. Again, it's still so new. We have to get it together. But before I look ahead and close here, after an athlete gets out of that particular college phase or high school and they are getting to the pros, what would you advise an NFL player, no matter what scale of salary you're on, to save per year to prepare for that roller coaster possibly, right? Even if it's a long career like Tom Brady, what would you advise that average guy to put up every single year?
Yeah. I think first and foremost, when you come into the league, 50% of your money is going to be gone right off the bat. So that's gone. Now you got another 50% to work with. I'm going to tell you, make sure you are having 30% of your money that you are just absolutely saving. I'm not touching. I'm either going to put it in a traditional savings account or I'm going to invest it. And then now you have another 20% of your money to actually live off of. And depending on where you are in terms of what you're actually making, then that's where you should be able to also get aggressive with that 20%. If you're making rookie minimum $750,000, you may not need to be spending 20% of your money on your living expenses today. You may be able to live off of 10% and then take the other 10% and add it to that savings and investing bucket. But as much as you can save and invest as you come into the NFL and throughout your entire career as a pro athlete, you're never going to look back and say, man, I saved too much money, right? And so that's the biggest thing that you want to do when you come into pro athlete.
30%. I wish I could save that amount. Student loans be kicking me on. I can't do it. Hey, man, some last-minute questions, rapid reaction stuff as we look ahead and close, and I appreciate the time, man. Thank you so much. We can get into this stuff all day, but 2025 is here. What is Brandon Copeland in 2025, 2024 now, 2025 ahead? What is Brandon Copeland looking at as we move ahead to 2025? Still got a lot to go in 2024, including the presidential election, but generative AI, I know you're in index funds. What are you looking at this 2025?
I'm looking at the election. Obviously, that's going to have a big determining factor on what happens in the markets from here on out, right? Two, AI. AI is an interesting beast. It's beautiful. It's going to help make some efficiencies. It's also, as we all know, it's scary. We've seen a lot of movies that start like this, right? And so I'm really trying to understand where there are opportunities in AI and opportunities for the long haul, not just it's new, it's a fad, and similar to NFTs years ago and things of that nature. So AI is definitely going to be something that I'll be studying up on.
Most definitely. I think I know how you made your first million. I'm playing something called the NFL. I think so. How did you spend it? Anything you would do different?
Oh, how did I spend it? Well, I wouldn't be day trading. I think that was the biggest lesson that I learned in my rookie year.
Day trade.
To not day trade. The day trading, it takes your consciousness from what I was actually there to do, which was playing football, because I'd be in meetings, I'd be buying Nike call options and I'd see guys rocking Under Armour and I'm like, oh snap, Coach, I gotta go to the bathroom. I gotta handle something real quick, right? So it distracted me, but I also wasn't thinking with a long-term, broad mindset, right? And so for me, the biggest lesson I learned was how to diversify my portfolio, but also how to assess risk in my portfolio to make sure that I wasn't over-leveraged in one place or another.
Oh, you lost $1 million in investing?
Nah, I ain't losing $1 million.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, how did you spend it? But it was day trade, buying.
Yeah, that was the lesson learned.
Okay, but you didn't lose $1 million.
Nah,
okay, but you spent it that way. Hey, listen, man, I'm taking this one to the crowd, right? Forbes BLK, a great community that we have at Forbes. And one of our members, Brittany, she said, what has been your most lucrative business/real estate decision to date?
Oh, most lucrative business decision. You know what? I'm going to venture capital investing. There's this company called Status Pro. This is a little,
of course. Andrew Hawkins up here a while ago.
There you go, Hawk and Troy. Man. Yeah. And so Troy is actually the godfather of my second child.
Beautiful.
His father is my trainer as well too, since high school all the way through the NFL. World class trainer, one of the best in the world. And so I'm going to use that one because one, they've done a phenomenal job of growing the company, making their investors happy as they grow and bring us along for the ride. But two, it's also just like a personal thing to be able to, you know, him come over the house, kick it, we grilling, we're gonna have dinner a couple of days from now, and to be able to invest in the company of somebody that you actually grew up with and watch him win and help him win with intros and things of that nature, again, it's just, it's different.
Yeah,
you know?
Hawk has that similar relationship with the roller coaster in his career and still was able to make some of it. But I played that game in the Oculus. It is pretty dope. I can't front, but Status Pro, definitely a good company. Get you out of here on this, man. Good to great. And I think I'll stay on the field for you, man. And I ask people in honor of Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, what's the difference between a good linebacker and a great one?
Oh, man, I think it's the leadership capability at that point, right? If you make it to the NFL, everybody is elite wherever they come. You don't. When I was with the Baltimore Ravens, the first day, the defensive coordinator, Dean Pease, came in and said, you don't make it in this room unless you are a stone cold killer, an assassin on the field. But now what will separate you, whether you make this team or not, is can you take what we do in here and can you take it to the football field, but then can you adjust in the middle of the game when Tom Brady and Peyton Manning are calling checks and audibles and things are flying? Can you keep everybody composed? Can you, when people look in your eyes, do they feel comfort or are they like, oh snap, we might as well quit right now, right? And so I think that's it, it's that leadership capability, because that's what, I mean, when you talk about the best linebackers in the game, the Roquan Smiths of the world, the Ray Lewises of the world, you also are talking about not only their play, but that leadership that they brought to the field. Yeah,
most definitely, man. Listen, your career is almost, I know you said roller coaster and resilient, but it's almost full circle. Amen. You started in Baltimore, right? They signed you to that, 3-year deal, $1.4 million deal.
Yep.
And then in 2023, you end your career, the last team you played for, technically, Baltimore Ravens. Exactly, so full circle, man.
Amen.
Brandon Copeland here at the Nasdaq. Jabari Young, definitely appreciate you watching. Happy Black Business Month. And go to this man's website for more, Instagram and all that. He got all these good financial tips. I couldn't get them all out now, but the next time. Appreciate you watching.